Presidential campaigns, presidential debates. Well, one of the issues being raised is citizenship. That takes us to this week's legal video blog. Citizenship. 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. Well, what does that exactly mean? First of all, let's look at the history of the 14th Amendment. It was passed in 1868, shortly after the Civil War. Principal purpose was to make sure that all persons who were freed slaves were citizens of the United States and recognized as citizens of the United States. That phrase, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, was added, in the opinion of many people, in order to make sure that Native Americans, people living on reservations, were in fact also considered as citizens of the United States because they were considered to be part of a sovereign nation, just as they are today. But if they are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, 14th Amendment wanted to make clear that they were also citizens. Okay. Now there are those who say that someone who is born to an individual who just happens to be visiting in the United States is not a citizen, and they argue that someone who is born in the United States to an individual who's just visiting, well, isn't subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, that their parent just happened to be here. Well, what do the courts say about this? What did the courts say about this? Well, the courts say very little. There's only one case, one U.S. case, U.S. Supreme Court case, decided way back in 1898. And that case said that a man born to Chinese parents who were living in the United States, not just visiting, living in the United States, were in fact people who gave birth to a U.S. citizen. Their son was a U.S. citizen. Now we got to remember that when this amendment, the 14th Amendment, was passed, there was no illegal immigration. Federal government didn't care who came into the country. There was no regulation of who came across the borders. Anybody could come. So there were no illegal immigrants. Therefore, people could come and live in the United States, give birth to children, and they were living here. They had adopted this country. There are those now who say that in view of our new world with rapid transportation and with the fact that we occasionally have people in this country that come seeking to give birth to children, that those individuals should not be giving birth to U.S. citizens because those individuals are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. At least that's the argument here. And they are further saying that citizenship is really a consensual coming together. It's one in which someone says, I want to be a citizen and I want to join a country, and in so doing so, they volitionally undertake several things. They learn the language that's locally spoken, they learn the customs, they learn how the government works, etc. Going through basically a naturalization process. Someone who is born doesn't have any of that ability, they just happen to be born here. There's a professor at Yale University, Peter Schack, who suggests that, in fact, citizenship should be, and really needs to be, a consensual agreement between the person who seeks citizenship and the country that grants citizenship. Okay, so we have these arguments, and we don't have a whole lot of case law. There was a case that was decided more recently in which the U.S. Supreme Court suggested that the offspring of an illegal immigrant was in fact a U.S. citizen, but then that was not basically what the case was about. So in terms of this and how the 14th Amendment really applies to people who are in the United States today illegally, giving birth to children, are those children actually members of our community in the United States? Are they U.S. citizens? Well, that's an issue that we don't have a clear decision on, and that's an issue that you are going to be hearing more and more about. We bring you this case and we bring you this discussion as we do every week so you understand how the law works. I'm David Allen.